to Daily Pulse, where we keep your finger on the pulse of the latest breaking news and the news they're keeping from you. A quick reminder to head on over to Rumble to watch our full show. If you're not subscribed to our channel yet, do so right now to catch our no-holds-barred reporting brought to you by the Vigilant Fox and Zeee Media. Tonight, China urges immediate opening of Hormuz Strait for the first time. Significance of Tucker Carlson's son exiting JD Vance's press team, and a vaccine mandate queen is who Trump is picking as the CDC director, reminding us why we need a better way. Let's get into the Daily Pulse. It was almost a year ago now that many of us warned the 12-day war was not going to be the end of the conflict in Iran. Many stated this would eventually lead to a wider regional conflict and perhaps a world war, with consequences that most could not conceive in their minds at the time, having been so flooded with propaganda to convince them otherwise. Those people warning about this were mocked, called panicans, disloyal, whatever other COVID-era tactics you want to add in there for demonizing people with common sense. And fast forward to today, the head of the IEA, who was reportedly at Bilderberg this year, by the way, is telling us that Europe has mere weeks of jet fuel left. Food and energy plants in multiple countries around the world are on fire in what can only be diagnosed by a rational person as deliberate. And it appears a controlled demolition to plunge us into the Great Reset is well and truly underway. Of course, this war is heating up. You can't possibly imagine that limiting access to energy of some of the world's most powerful countries isn't going to have repercussions. Well, now China has urged immediate opening of the Hormuz Strait for the first time in a call with the Saudi Crown Prince. This comes to us from Zero Hedge. It says China's President Xi Jinping on Monday demanded the uninterrupted passage of vessels through the Strait of Hormuz in a phone call with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, state news agency Xinhua reports. He urged the normalization of shipping traffic after about 50 days of disruption, which obviously and significantly impact Chinese oil imports. Quote, normal navigation through the Strait of Hormuz should be maintained. This is in the shared interests of regional countries and the international community, Xi said in the statement also carried by AFP. He called for an immediate, comprehensive ceasefire and insisted disputes be resolved through political and diplomatic means. It goes on, South China Morning Post observes that this was the first time the Chinese leader had called for the reopening of the strategically vital waterway, which has been repeatedly blockaded since US-Israeli strikes on Iran began on February 28th. China imported 5.8 million tons of crude oil from Saudi Arabia, down 10% from February, according to customs data released on Monday. As for where things stand on the negotiations front, Iran hesitated over sending diplomats to Pakistan for a second round of peace talks after the US maintained a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and seized an Iranian vessel after apparently firing on it, undermining prospects for a breakthrough to end the war. Initially, it appeared to shut the door on second talks. However, per the Associated Press Monday morning, it says Iranian authorities have expressed willingness to send a delegation for a second round of talks in Islamabad this week, two Pakistani officials said on Monday. The officials, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to brief the media, said there is cautious optimism that delegations from both Iran and the US could travel to Islamabad. The US side would reportedly once again be headed up by Vice President JD Vance, who during the first round cut out early after a serious impasse was reached on the nuclear issue. Meanwhile, this from oilprice.com, it says Iran issues stark warning over US naval blockade. Iran has warned the world that it cannot and would not guarantee safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz if the United States continues to attempt to restrict Tehran's oil exports. Following a weekend of twists and turns and escalating tensions, Iran's first vice president, Mohammad Reza Aref, early on Monday said that security at the Strait of Hormuz comes at a cost. Quote, the security of the Strait of Hormuz is not free. One cannot restrict Iran's oil exports while expecting free security for others, Aref wrote on X. The choice is clear, either a free oil market for all, or the risk of significant costs for everyone, the senior Iranian official said. Quote, stability in global fuel prices depends on a guaranteed and lasting end to the economic and military pressure against Iran and its allies, a ref continued in the post. Following a respite for a few hours on Friday, the Strait of Hormuz was closed again on Saturday after Iran linked the opening of the vital oil shipping lane to the lifting of the US naval blockade outside the strait. After plunging by 10% on Friday, oil prices rebounded by 5% early Monday in Asian trade after the US Navy intercepted an Iranian vessel it accused of attempting to break its blockade. Maritime conditions in and around the Strait of Hormuz have deteriorated sharply again, with the brief signal of reopening now overtaken by renewed closure, vessel attacks, and large-scale course reversals, Maritime Intelligence from Windward said in a daily note on Sunday. The renewed escalation, including threats from the Iran-aligned Houthis to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait on the Red Sea and thus cut off the alternative route for Saudi oil shipments, delays the moment when oil exports from the Middle East could start flowing again. Meanwhile, and this is from antiwar.com, Trump is threatening to blow up the whole country of Iran, I guess again, if a deal is not reached. President Trump has threatened to blow up the whole country of Iran if Tehran doesn't agree to a deal that he is demanding it to sign, as the very fragile ceasefire appears to be on the verge of collapsing. Many say it already has. Trump made the comment in an interview with Fox News reporter Trey Yingst. I just spoke with President Trump for about 20 minutes and he told me if Iran does not sign this deal, the whole country is getting blown up. He went on to say that bridges and power plants will be targeted if Iran does not sign this agreement, Yingst said. Well, the threat from Trump came after Iran said it reclosed the Strait of Hormuz after briefly declaring it was open to all commercial vessels. The Iranian government said that the waterway was again closed due to the fact that the US was maintaining its blockade on Iranian ports, a violation of the ceasefire agreement. We've said this before, but we'll keep repeating it because we understand that propaganda is a powerful tool of war and that many are still, unfortunately, under its spell. It is very difficult to determine the truth at present. Who broke the ceasefire first? Why did they break it? What is the real agenda here? These are all impossible questions to answer with certainty right now. What is obvious is that in mere weeks, people all around the world are going to feel the severe consequences of this war. The pinch is already happening with fuel prices, but very soon the impacts on food and fertilizer shortages will become apparent. Amazon recently announced a price increase on everything because, no doubt, Bezos has some insider knowledge of how this is going to affect the cost of things long term. USPS recently announced a price hike of 8% on domestic competitive shipping products. UPS has raised fuel surcharges and added targeted fees amid diesel price surges. FedEx has increased fuel fees and implemented Middle East-related surcharges for parcel shipping. Maersk, a global shipping company, have adjusted rates and added fuel surcharges due to higher fuel costs and supply chain disruptions. United Airlines have raised checked baggage fees in response to surging jet fuel prices. JetBlue have increased baggage fees and signaled broader fare adjustments due to jet fuel costs. Delta, international airlines like Cathay Pacific and Air India have introduced or hiked fuel surcharges and fares with broader warnings of rising ticket prices. BASF, a major German chemicals giant, has sharply raised prices on multiple products. Broader chemical and steel manufacturers, especially in Europe, have imposed surcharges of up to 30% on products to cover higher electricity, feedstock, and energy expenses. Grocery or supermarket chains and food producers are facing and beginning to pass on higher costs for transportation, fertilizers, and packaging, with some warnings of upcoming price hikes. Many manufacturers are bracing for or quietly implementing hikes on plastics, transportation-dependent goods, which is everything, and energy-intensive products. The list goes on, and suffice to say, this is going to affect every single aspect of our lives. You know what hasn't happened, though? We haven't heard one single government declare that data center construction, over 400 of those currently under construction in the US, by the way, needs to be paused for the time being, nor have we heard governments say that these data centers will be subjected to any form of restriction on their very hungry energy needs in the midst of this energy crisis. That's how you know that this is part of a broader plan, and all we can hope is that people wake up to the truth here and resist this great reset with everything in their capacity. If there's one thing we can learn from the Epstein files, it's that there are two tiers in this country. One for regular people and one for the rich and connected. And that divide doesn't stop in the courtroom, it runs straight through the financial system. While most people stay distracted, the wealthy keep multiplying their net worth. One of the fastest ways they've done that is through cryptocurrency. For years, crypto has been a playground for experienced traders to capitalize on everyday investors who panic sell at the worst possible moment. But now, everyday people can finally be on a level playing field. Animus AI, available through BlockTrust IRA, analyzes market data and executes trades with precision most investors can't match. Since 2022, it has outperformed Bitcoin by 250%. In 2025 alone, BlockTrust IRA helped create over 80,000 new millionaires. And right now, our viewers can receive $2,500 in bonus crypto instantly when they open a qualifying account through dailypulsecrypto.com. Start supercharging your retirement today. Take the first step at dailypulsecrypto.com. That's dailypulsecrypto.com. There have been some significant resignations in the past few weeks, namely Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, who resigned with a bang, some would say, claiming that he could not support the war in good conscience and that all intelligence he was privy to showed there was no imminent threat to the US from Iran. Well, the latest to join the fleeing parties is Buckley Carlson, Tucker Carlson's son, who has exited JD Vance's press team and will be reportedly starting his own political consulting firm. This resignation comes amid escalating tensions between Trump and podcasters who've been loyal supporters of his for years but dared to criticize some of his actions of late. This article comes from the New York Post, so you can maybe expect it to be a little biased towards Trump. It says Tucker Carlson's son exits JD Vance's press team amid escalating feud between dad Trump. The son of right-wing pundit Tucker Carlson has left Vice President JD Vance's press team to set up his own political consulting firm amid escalating tensions between his father and President Trump. No further details on the political consulting firm as of yet, everyone, but we'll let you know once any significant information comes out. It says Buckley Carlson, a 20-something who had served as Vance's deputy press secretary since the start of the second Trump admin, is joining a group of several White House alumni departing for the private sector. While such moves can be typical in presidential administrations, Buckley's departure comes against the backdrop of a growing rift between Trump and Tucker, a once avid backer. It says that Trump wrote in a screed against Tucker earlier this month, quote, "Flailing fools like Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college. He was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist." And then Trump jabbed at Tucker again on Truth Social on Friday, linking to a story about CNN data guru Harry Enton suggesting the president was winning the feud in the public eye and writing, "Tucker is a low IQ person, always easy to beat, and highly overrated." It's really interesting that President Trump is choosing to cite CNN, who he calls fake news because of one favorable poll. And, we'd really like to see who was surveyed in that poll. It seems to include maybe just three people: Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, and Lindsey Graham probably is the entirety of that poll. Of course, we're being facetious here. But a news outlet that is repeatedly referred to as fake news by Donald Trump, he's constantly making reference to this poll by CNN to prove his point and taking a stab at Tucker for not finishing college. Charlie Kirk is someone who didn't finish college, and he supported Trump with everything that he had. A huge portion of Trump's base, people who voted him into office, didn't finish college. This is the working class. These are blue collar workers of America. So to insult them by way of insulting Tucker for not finishing college. A lot of people saw that as incredibly disrespectful to his base and the people who actually got him elected. Of course, whether someone finished college or not is no indication of someone's IQ. There are plenty of successful billionaires out there who didn't finish college. And to call Tucker low IQ is, the man is clearly not low IQ, whether you agree or disagree vehemently with him. He clearly is an intelligent person, whether you like his ideas or not. So suggesting that people who didn't finish college is low IQ is a lot of people saw that as a really low blow to the people that got him elected. The article goes on that Tucker has publicly railed against the Trump administration for months, all while largely refraining from mentioning the president by name. I would actually strongly disagree with that. Personally, I think Tucker has railed against some of the decisions of the admin, not the admin itself. In fact, Tucker has on multiple occasions expressed, again, whether you agree or disagree, it's important to look at this objectively. He has expressed his desire for the administration to succeed and also deliver on their campaign promises. That's what Tucker and a lot of the people that Trump has been taking aim at recently have expressed. They want Trump to succeed. They want the campaign promises fulfilled. And I don't think that that's actually railing against the admin so much as putting pressure on them, as is their democratic right, to fulfill their campaign promises. It goes on. Instead, he blamed the president's allies, such as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, for his grievances, including the war in Iran. Again, that is something that was, expressed by Joe Kent. A lot of reporters have just repeated what Joe Kent was saying, as someone who was very high up in the intel community. Tucker privately lobbied Trump against going to war. So did Charlie Kirk. So that's worth mentioning. Trump, for his part, had occasionally swiped at Tucker, calling him kooky, among other insults, after the latter dinged the Operation Midnight Hammer attacks on Iran. And we just reported to you in the previous segment that many of the concerns raised at that time are coming to fruition now. It says, but more recently, Trump has seemingly waded into the conservative podcast wars and sided with radio host Mark Levin against his foes, such as Tucker, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens. Again, people that have supported Trump and stomped for Trump, if you will, for years, but just disagree with some of his recent actions. It says Tucker in turn told the BBC earlier this month that he was horrified by the president's bone-chilling declaration that a, quote, whole civilization will die tonight if Iran didn't cut a deal. Quote, I've always liked Trump and still feel sorry for him, as I do for all slaves, Tucker told Newsmax, claiming that Trump, quote, can't make his own decisions and is, quote, hemmed in by other forces. Again, whether you agree or vehemently disagree with Tucker or any of the podcasters Trump seems to be regularly posting about, despite claiming no one cares about their opinion, then why post about them? It is important to be objective when we assess someone's point of view. Ask ourselves, if the other side was doing some of these things, like strongly advocating to extend FISA, aka warrantless spying on Americans, for example, how would we feel about it? If Kamala had won and was obsessively posting about conservative podcasters she claimed were irrelevant by name, how would we feel about that? Would we think that was normal? If Kamala was posting pictures which seemed to depict her as Jesus and then came out and told us she just meant she saw herself as a doctor healing people, would we believe her? Would we see that as blasphemous? As we've said many times on this broadcast, the standard litmus test on these matters, whether you agree with them or not, and that's okay if you do or don't, is what would you think if the other side was doing it? The timing of this resignation is not lost on anyone, and it is concerning that conservatives seemingly feel they can no longer work in the admin at a time where many conservatives also feel that it is becoming more and more dangerous to be a true conservative or truly America first. What does this say about JD Vance? Did he want Buckley to stay? Did he want him gone? It would be good to have clarification on that matter. We think it's important. Time will tell where this all heads, but there is a clear break right now when it comes to current or former Trump supporters, and it seems like the line is America first. When financial markets become unstable, the real question isn't just how much wealth you have, The real question is how much of it you actually control. Stocks, funds, and retirement accounts all depend on financial institutions, trading windows, and market liquidity. And as recent events have shown, when too many investors rush for the exits at once, access to that money can suddenly slow down. That's why many smart investors are turning to physical gold and silver, not to get rich quick, but for stability and the reassurance that their wealth won't be locked up when they need it most. And that's where Genesis Gold Group comes in. Genesis Gold Group is a Christian, faith-based company dedicated to helping Americans protect their savings and diversify their wealth with physical gold and silver. Their team walks you through the entire process step by step, making it simple to roll over an existing IRA or 401k into a gold IRA, own real physical gold and silver stored in secure vaults, and diversify part of your savings outside traditional financial markets. And you can feel confident knowing Genesis Gold Group maintains an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Right now, they're offering viewers a free financial survival report. There's no obligation, just clear information so you can decide whether precious metals belong in your long-term strategy. Because the goal isn't panic, the goal is preparation. You can't control when the next financial shock arrives, but you can decide how your portfolio is positioned before it does. Visit dailypulsegold.com to speak with a Genesis Gold specialist or request your free financial survival report today. That's dailypulsegold.com, dailypulsegold.com. Well, the new pick for the CDC director is a nightmare. This is from Nick Holscher. Meet your new CDC director, Rear Admiral Erica Schwartz. She mandated almost every major vaccine on civilians and military members, forcing smallpox, anthrax, and flu shots into US forces with threats and discipline for those who refused. Yes, that is Trump's CDC pick. Nick Holscher's meme there says the queen of mandating vaccines. Bit of background here from Aaron Zeee. He was responding to Donald Trump's announcement about this new pick, saying it is incredibly ironic that real Donald Trump would write that his pick to lead the CDC will, quote, restore the gold standard science at the CDC, which was an absolute disaster focused on mandates under Sleepy Joe, when his pick is the queen of mandating vaccines. She has, with threat and force, mandated almost every major vaccine on civilians and military members, including mandating injection of smallpox, anthrax, and flu vaccines into US forces and disciplining those who refused. The only thing she is likely to restore is the CDC to business as usual, cheerleading for industry instead of being a regulator over industry. So it's very clear that they're not interested in our health. It's very clear that no one is coming to save us. A lot of the promises that were made through the Maha movement, and really, by the way, the Maha coalition that came across with the addition of RFK Jr. into the administration, which many would say is what won this previous election, a lot of that is not actually going to come to fruition. So what we need is a better way. Well, there's an upcoming conference in May headed up by the World Council for Health and Dr. Tess Lawrie. We're going to play you a quick trailer for that conference. And then Dr. Tess Lawrie is joining us to discuss why we so desperately need a better way. Here's the trailer. Dr. Tess Lawrie, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Maria. It's really great to be with you again after all these years.
Yes. And I'm so glad to see you and the World Council for Health continuing your great work. It is so needed in this time. We just showed the audience the new pick for CDC director. It seems that a lot of what Maha had promised is not actually going to happen. And we have certain things like congressional bills that are stripping local power by removing environmental and historic review and green lighting, massive cell tower expansion. Just want to show everyone that right now. So it seems like things are moving in the wrong direction, Dr. Laurie.
Well, in some respects, but from our perspective at World Council for Health, we're really about a grassroots movement, grassroots advocacy, and empowering people to start taking action along a better way. So we have what we're calling a Better Way movement in 2026, where we get the best information from all these advocacy groups, and we all work together to take action. Because I think, the time for just watching governments and waiting for them to do the right thing is over. We really have to get active. So the Better Way movement and World Council for Health is all about solutions.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we need because I think you're so right. People said, well, let's just give it a chance. I think the whole world was watching America with the appointment of RFK Jr. and hoping that there would be real change that seems to have been stifled quite significantly. And so we're now back to square one, which is essentially where we were prior to this election, which is we need to take the action ourselves. And that is what the Better Way movement is really focusing on. Now, you've got a conference coming up. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the conference is called A Better Way for the USA, and we know because everything that happens in the USA affects us in everywhere else in the world. So the conference is focusing on health, new health solutions, and we're bringing together more than 30 speakers from mainly in the USA. There's so many people with great ideas on how to move things forward. People who've been working in grassroots organizations and academic institutions and clinical settings and have established ethical health clinics. And we're bringing everyone together and we're having conversations. So they're not polarizing conversations. The way that we have conversations is really to value different perspectives and recognize that we don't know everything as individuals. What we do is we each have a different piece of the puzzle and we all come together and talk it out and then bring forward the best solutions that people have at this time.
I think one of the best things that happened during COVID was the emergence of, critically thinking doctors and scientists who the public now trusts. And we've seen sort of this alternative approach from the mainstream, which is actually really helping people. You see a lot of people getting treatment for illnesses that traditional sort of mainstream rather medicine is not really helping them with as much as people who are willing to think outside of the box. For example, ivermectin, just one of those examples, and how much that's been able to help people. And I know that you and I had a lot of discussions around ivermectin back in the day. And so the importance of these people gathering together and continuing with this movement and this vision is so important. So we're grateful that you're doing it. I want to bring up the speakers for everyone. So take us through a little bit of this list, Dr. Laurie, please.
Yeah, well, in actual fact, if you could start with the running order, then I can show you how the panels are broken down, how
Absolutely.
we actually bring people together and have these conversations.
Sure.
We're calling it co-creation because we're not saying we have the solutions. We're saying, come and join us and co-create the solutions with us. So, of course, we have a lovely gala dinner on the evening, the night before the conference. It's a 2-day conference, and that's really wonderful for networking. Then the first day, we have Del Bigtree as the MC, and he's a phenomenal MC, as we've learned from our previous conferences. And that day is really focused on science, health systems, and informed consent. And we're doing something that hasn't been done before. And we're, apart from looking at the scientific research and what's happened with journals and medical training and finding solutions to those emerging problems, we're also looking at blood and biological products, but this has not been done before in our conference settings, where we're really looking at what's happened to biological products and informed consent in that context, because there's a lot of substances that seem to be going in and technologies that are going into biological products, and we're not really being informed and we're not giving our consent. But it's just all rolling ahead anyway. And we've got amazing speakers on that panel, including Jan Jekelek, who's, he's just written that book, Kill to Order, about the organ transplant and organ harvesting industries, which is really, exciting to have him on that panel, as well as Dr. Brian Ardis, who's been speaking for years, as you know, about concerns that the spike protein may actually be or is very similar to snake venom. And this has been quite controversial for years. And, I think even amongst the health and freedom movement, there's been, well, could this be true? This sounds very strange and weird. So it's wonderful to give him a platform among his peers, and let's understand his perspective more and see how it fits with the other perspectives that will be shared on the panel. Because of course, everybody wants safe blood. Blood is such an important product. Not only blood, but other biological products. And I think the big question is blood safe these days? Can blood be safe with all the things that are going into biological products, including these new products that are being promoted as vaccines and disseminated?
I actually heard recently
so that's really exciting.
that there's a bit of a crisis going on where people are not, the hospitals and institutions are not actually able to perform certain surgeries or even life-saving operations because of the amount of people that are requesting unvaccinated blood. It's causing significant delays, and their requests are not unfounded. This is absolutely a vital conversation, and we've seen the emergence of unvaccinated blood banks and things of this nature. It's interesting. It's like unvaxxed blood is the new Bitcoin. Not to make light of the situation, but it's very, very serious. So that's day one. You want to take us through day two?
Yes. So day two is really focusing on governance, on prevention and treatment, and very importantly, self-healing. We've got Brett Weinstein. I love Brett. And wonderful to have him as MC for the day, and he's also co-hosting a couple of the panels. We have Dr. Sherry Tenpenny as a host on one of the panels with Brett, and that's the panel on prevention and treatment. And we have such a wonderful, of course, with 5 panelists, you can imagine they get 15 minutes each to speak, and then there's a conversation, so they share their perspectives. So it's not a sort of, covering every possible aspect, but it's raising, each of them have a different angle. Dr. Larry Pawlewski's on, his child health and child mental health. Dr. Beverly Rubrick, her focus is on EMF and how we reduce our risks from EMF, electromagnetic frequency. We've got Dr. Paul Marek, who's a cancer expert, and he's been bringing in all these different approaches to treating cancer as a metabolic disease. We've got Dr. Mark Brody, who's a holistic or a naturopath. He was an MD, but he withdrew his license. He withdrew his license because of COVID and he didn't wish to be part of that. So he's a naturopathic doctor now. And Lisa Lopez is a nutritionist. So you can see what a wonderful conversation that's going to be, with each of them sharing their perspectives on disease prevention as well as treatment. And hosted by Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, who we know is an expert on why vaccines shouldn't be used anymore. So at the very least. So we've got that. We've got a better way for health governance. And in actual fact, you'll see all of these panels have got 2 hosts, Maria, and the Better Way for Health Governance is just me at the moment. So I was wondering if you would be so kind as to co-host that panel with me. You don't have to tell me now, but it would be wonderful to see you in person. You did previously speak at one of our events, but it was from a long way away. But now we brought the conference to your continent.
We will talk about that off air. I will see what I can do, Dr. Laurie, because it would be really incredible to be there. And we also have a better way for self-healing. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, well, so this is hosted by Jan Jekelek and Christoph Plotier. Christoph Plotier is our health and science lead, and he's a naturopath and osteopath. But Jan actually self-healed himself from Guillain-Barré syndrome, so he's a perfect host for this panel, I think. I believe it was through energetic means, and he'll tell us more about that. But we have Sierra Ham talking about having a baby these days and what that should be, and how to keep yourself and your baby safe if in hospital. We've got Francesca Havens talking about detoxing from vaccines and all sorts of environmental toxins. Dr. Mark Trozzi giving us a quick first aid course on how to do home help. And Dr. Sherry Tenpenny speaking about her experience healing herself, self-healing from a stroke. Cecilia Doucette is going to give us more advice on how to protect ourselves from the increasing invasive digital world. So I do hope that sounds like a movable feast. I say a movable feast because, of course, speakers are always subject to change, just like I'm hoping you might join us. There's always a possibility that we'll add new speakers. So please do keep looking at the website to make sure that you're fully up to date, and please do book your ticket.
Well, on the tickets, we have the betterwayconference.org is where people can go for their tickets. And you can see the landing page here, betterwayconference.org. You've got your tickets and pricing, which range from a VIP full package to the weekend pass, cancer workshop, which is an extra add-on, and the virtual pass, which includes live and playback. But of course, it is always better to be there in person if you can. And it's worthwhile mentioning as well that you're offering 10% off for attendees if they put...
Yes.
Go on.
Well, in actual fact, choose your favorite speaker, put their surname in, and then 10, and you'll get 10% off the ticket price. But Maria, I also just wanted to add, it's not only an in-person conference, it is a live streamed event. So if you cannot get there in person, please do join us on the live stream. We've done it before on live stream. It's been so successful. And the wonderful thing is that for just the price of the online ticket, which I think at the early bird rate is $30 or so, plus your 10% discount, you can actually invite your friends and family around and make a weekend, extravaganza of learning and fun, because our conferences are fun. They're not dry and boring. We have a lot of fun and laughter with them. So please do join us for that event online wherever you are.
Yes, absolutely. It is just here. I'll bring up the pricing again. It's $30 plus your 10%. Just put the surname of your favorite speaker in with the code 10 and you'll be able to get that 10% off. And again, you can look at the speakers at betterwayconference.org. Featured speakers. Keep an eye on this to see who's going to be there, but you can see Dr. Paul Marrick, one of my personal favorites. Dr. Peter McCullough will be there, and there's a lot of really, really incredible names. So make sure to visit betterwayconference.org today. What do you see as when we look at the news cycle, Dr. Laurie, and we see things, with as far as the mainstream establishment goes, are really not going in the right direction? What do you see because let me just backtrack a little bit. I see people a lot more emboldened to stand up for their own rights, their own medical freedom. They learned a lot during the COVID era, and they're not going to simply accept what the powers that be tell them they have to do with their own bodies anymore. How does this conference and your vision empower people to do that?
Well, what we really want people to start doing is moving away from the whole COVID narrative and realizing there's much more to this than just COVID. We have to attend to the healthcare systems and design new healthcare systems that actually serve people. But importantly, we need to look at the root cause. What is the root cause of our current predicament? What was the root cause of COVID? And I don't know how much time you have, but we need to start discussing bigger things, the big picture of things, like this fourth industrial revolution, which is, about merging human beings with digital technologies, and it's happening already. And it's not going to stop. This is an industry. It's big business, a highly competitive industry, and we are humanity's in grave danger. So we really need to get together. We need to work together, and we need to really look at the big picture and stop fighting in the trenches and doing all of this sort of retrospective uh, looking at the COVID issues do need to be looked at, but we're running out of time. We really need to focus on solutions, better way solutions. We've got to come up with the solutions. Don't expect the governments to come up with the solutions. The governments are all compromised. They're all in it with the globalists. So what you're seeing is just a show. We've got to get on and do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you something that gives me a lot of confidence, Dr. Laurie, is that I decided before COVID, but it was especially cemented in for me that I can't trust the establishment ever again. And when I see people like you and Brett Weinstein and Dr. Peter McCullough and, all of these fantastic names, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, when I see them continuing their fight to stand up for what's right and educate the public in the better way, that tells me that I'm not alone, as well as all of the people that tune into this show. So I'm extremely grateful that we have people on our side who are helping to educate us and empower us moving forward, because we need to take responsibility for our future. We can't just, as you said, sit back and wait for governments to do it. They're not going to. They are absolutely pushing forward with biodigital convergence, which is an absolute biological nightmare. And we don't have the time today, but I'd love to come back and talk to you more in depth about that fourth industrial revolution and what it actually means for our health, because it is so concerning, so concerning. Finally, I just want to show everyone the game of trust. You can go to lauriefiles.com. That's LAWRIE files.com. Talk to everyone about this book.
Well, I wrote that book really about 2021 and the journey to establishing World Council for Health with other like-minded people. So I think if people are coming to World Council for Health for the first time and thinking, well, what is this organization? There's information in there with all the links. It comes with a website that you can explore before you even get the book. Do look at the website. You can look at the links there and documents, and please do visit that so that you know that we've been at this front line for some time, and we are, we're actually not fighting in the trenches. We are really leading the way. So we hope that people will, look at the book and realize that, they've got a good team with us at World Council for Health. We're an international decentralizing organization with the very best of people and best hearts.
Well, we are so grateful for you, Dr. Tess Laurie. I hope that people will attend in person at the Better Way conference, but if you can't make it in person, make sure to head to betterwayconference.org. That's betterwayconference.org. Get your tickets to attend virtually if you can't get there in person. It is going from May the 30th to the 31st. It's going to be in Rhode Island. And again, if you can't make it in person, go ahead and get your virtual tickets and share it with everyone that you can. Great idea to get your family there. And as a bare minimum, apart from everything that you'll learn, know that we are not alone in this, and there are still really, really amazing people like Dr. Tess Laurie who are out here advocating for us. Really, they're on our team, and so that is an incredible thing. Dr. Tess Laurie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Now, we just want to give you a little bit more detail about that bill that we highlighted during that conversation, but didn't actually go into the nitty gritty about it. It's Bill HR 2289, a bill to preempt local control over cell towers and eliminate historic and environmental reviews. This provides them with sweeping preemption of local control. It would invalidate many local rules related to the authorization of cell towers and base station cell antennas. It provides them with environmental and historic review rollbacks, short deadlines with automatic approval render, local review a rubber stamp, limits on local fees, and expanded preemption on RF radiation health. Now, the House Rules Committee is actually meeting today at 4 p.m. to set debate rules, and then the bill moves quickly to a final vote. It says if it passes, which is quite likely, it goes to the Senate. So there needs to be very strong opposition to this bill, and we will keep you updated as to what happens from that vote today. Basically, from what I understand, it gives them the ability to, by force, put cell towers on your house, which of course is incredibly alarming for both freedom, privacy, and our health, by the way. If you're like me, you look to be as far away from cell towers as possible at all times. And so this is actually very important. It just really emphasizes again that they are not interested in our health. They are moving full speed ahead with the fourth industrial revolution, and we need to be all across this and resisting it as much as possible, especially within our local communities. But we will keep you updated on that as well. There is a serious problem with health insurance in America. Over 200,000 Americans per year are driven into bankruptcy due to health events despite having health insurance. On average, 20% of people have their claims denied altogether, leaving them and their families helpless, not to mention the additional out-of-pocket expenses despite dumping thousands of dollars per year into unreliable insurance and deductible payments. Well, did you know there's an alternative? In the midst of all of this, a revolutionary model has emerged that is resulting in just shy of 100% of medical bills being funded, and at literally a fraction of the cost. It's called Crowd Health, with over 28,000 members helped with medical bills, a 99.9% funding success, and over $56 million in medical bills saved. This alternative method of healthcare is sweeping the nation, and people need to know this option exists for them and their loved ones. Crowd Health is not insurance. You can opt out of the broken system and take your power back. Get started today for $99 per member per month for the first 3 months, which includes your member fee and Crowd Health contributions, by using the code PULSE at joincrowdhealth.com/pulse. That's joincrowdhealth.com/pulse. Remember to use code PULSE. Well, thank you all for joining in tonight. We really appreciate you all, and we are back to our regular schedule. So a quick reminder to make sure to follow us on Rumble, where you can catch our broadcast every single night at 7 p.m. Eastern. That channel is Zeee Media, and there are a couple of ways that you can support us to continue our truly independent reporting. Make sure to subscribe to Rumble Premium. There's a button right under this video. You support us as content creators, and you get an ad-free experience where you're supporting a free speech platform. So make sure to do that today. Also, make sure to support our sponsors. We've chosen to partner with businesses who are really doing their best to build a better future for humanity. They care about us and they share our values. And when you support them, you support us. So head to their links in the description below. We will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Good night, everyone.